yet?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
My name is Alexandre Nequado, and I'm with my colleagues André and Vincent. Today we have our guests, Fateema and Monique. Fateema, if you could introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Fateema Al-Hamaydeh Miller. I'm a Palestinian filmmaker based in Toronto, and I'm the co-writer and director of Mawtini, My Homeland, that recently got to play at Regard Film Festival in their amazing Indigenous Voices program. So I'm really excited to be here, and Monique is my collaborator for the project.
And Monique, if you could introduce yourself.
Nuedi, Nuegambi, Anuga Olo Nadili, Oloedi Dili, Ngano Sokta. So I'm Monique Mojica. I am primarily a theater actor, playwright, dramaturg. I belong to generation 3 out of 4 generations of performing artists in my family. So it's a family business. I am Guna and Rappahannock, so it's Central and North American, and I'm adopted into the Cayuga Bear clan of the Haudenosaunee at Six Nations. And I'm Toronto-based artist living here in Tkaronto for over 40 years now. And I was an actor and story editor for Mawtini.
Monica, I see, wow, you have an impressive resume. I see that you have played in Smoke Signals with historical work of filmmaking and for us North American Indigenous.
That's right. I'm still very proud to have been part of that for its historical placement. And it was fun. That was back in the days when I had to paint in my gray hair.
Which role have you played in the film Smoke Signals?
I was Grandma Builds a Fire, so I was his grandma.
I remember now. Yes, and you have your grandson always telling stories, and you smiling, listening to him.
Yeah,
that was beautiful. And how come, Fateema, you meet this wonderful actress?
Wow, it's such a gift to know Monique. I started writing this film, Mawtini, and developing it over many years. And there was a certain point where I was looking for a mentor and somebody to both like embody the character of Tanya in the film, but also serve as somebody who could help develop the story and bring their own lived experience to that role and really, partner with me. And we really looked a lot at the how to decolonize structure, and Monique has a whole practice around that of re-indigenizing structure in theater, and we kind of transferred that to film. So I was connected with her through another friend, my friend Teresa Cutknife, who they live in the same neighborhood and are both amazing actors and artists. And so when Teresa found out I was looking for a mentor and an actor to play this character, she recommended Monique right away. And then, we got connected. And luckily she said yes to being part of the project.
Mm-hmm. And I understand that, well, I may be wrong, but I understand that you have some Palestinian links with your family, and you are, you feel, do you feel by this generational culture, do you feel more connected to the Aboriginal movement and peoples and cultures in Canada?
Yeah, a big part of the inception of this film was thinking about what it meant to be from stolen land. So being Palestinian and living in exile, not being able to go back to Palestine, our village doesn't exist anymore. And then being present and living on stolen land in so-called Canada. So I only exist, I'm biracial, I'm mixed race. My dad is Palestinian. My mom is English, Irish, German. There's Mi'kmaq there from my grandfather's side, Irish Catholic, and Mi'kmaq from the East Coast, and my grandmother's English and German and Scottish, I think. So it's like I only got to exist because of that displacement and that history of colonization and erasure of our people and our land. But then I'm here, you know, present in a legacy that continues to do the same in Canada to Indigenous people here. So I was thinking about that a lot. I experienced a lot of solidarity and love from Indigenous friends who are advocates for Palestine, and also feeling drawn to support those causes myself, and really feeling like the responsibility that I hold as a settler here on Turtle Island. And so it just made sense to explore, like, what is that connection, you know, through these two characters who happen to both be displaced, though one is from the land that the story takes place on, and one who can, you know, never return to her homeland. So I feel like there's a lot of resonance between our communities for sure. And my family history, because, you know, even being, you know, only part of my family being Palestinian, Palestinians are so passionate about passing on those stories and keeping that knowledge, which I think is very connected to other Indigenous communities, because we've been under this erasure. We don't want to lose those stories. We don't want to lose that knowledge. We want to keep that going on to the next generation. And so, yeah, naturally, I've always wanted to like explore stories that kind of center more of like the longing towards reconnecting with that.
Yeah, for the one that are listening to us, I think we have to explain that in the film. This is about the friendship between two women that are living in a social housing, each one in her own apartment, and somehow together they are dodging the rules of the building, with a director that is closely watching them, and this is the base of the film. And of course, one is a Palestinian, and the other is Indigenous. I don't think in the film it's you mentioned the nation of the character. Monica, I am curious how you received this project and how you accepted and finally got into it to develop the film and the story.
Well, when Fateema brought me in, she'd been working on it for a while, and it was 2023, but before the war, before the latest genocide. And we had started working on it. We were talking about it certainly in terms of the connection between people who have been colonized, displaced, settler colonialism, and recognizing that in each other. And then October 7th happened. Mm-hmm. So it became really critical. It became part of our process to use the vehicle of being artists to strengthen the relationship through storytelling, to strengthen the solidarity looking out. And what I love about this piece is that it does it with minimal text. And I think that's what film does best. Theater is often too text heavy and doesn't take advantage of the fact that it is a present live medium, and that the body tells story, that the body is text. And with film, we have the added advantage of the way that the camera can direct your eye, that tells a specificity of the story. And for me, that's the power of this one, that there's so much that's unsaid, didn't need to be said, and didn't need to be said between the characters either, at a time when we had to explain a whole lot why we're Indigenous folks, why was the Indigenous contingent at the front of the protests. You know, we really had to go back and say, well, you really want to talk about settler colonialism? Well, you know, and we were also meeting Palestinians in the streets who had no idea that we had survived. You know, we were there during those early days with people who were like live streaming to Gaza, saying, "Look, they didn't kill them all." You know? So, in those early days when we were working with the story and when we were filming, the knowledge of what was going on as we worked was really, really, really present. We had to have crying breaks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. In Montreal, I am really happy that Hélène Gabriel, who is a strong Indigenous leader, she was an important spokesperson in 1990 during the Oka resistance against their community. And she was a spokesperson for the Ganisatagi resistance. And since that time, she has remained an important leader in this region, for all of us. And she is very, very implicated in the solidarity organizations for the Palestinian and against the genocide in Gaza. And I wrote to the chiefs and I said, "What are you doing? Now being Indigenous is you are supposed to be nation. We are nations. Not only you are not running a union worker, you are the spokesperson for nations. And we have an international voice since we are recognized now by the Assembly of the United Nations. We have this declaration that make us nations for the rest of the world. So you should be more active to support the Palestinian cause, because it's so near of what we have lived here during the last 2-3 centuries. And I am still sad to see that they are not more implicated in the international field. Do you feel the same, Monique?
Well, I think, Fateema used the word erasure, and erasure of our presence on the land is critical to all of their projects. Here, I mean, the whole hemisphere, you have to have erasure before you can do the extraction. You have to, it's here, it's a wilderness. And I think that whether it's local or whether it's global, and I think they just did a big global gathering at the United Nations in New York of the Indigenous Peoples Forum there. But I do find that, our invisibility is really part of the strategy for genocide on this side. And I think that's true for Indigenous peoples around the world.
Yeah. And the metaphor you use to your two characters in the film, Fateema, is obviously the ground that become we understand the representation for our lands. And it's the clandestine, if I can say, the illegal garden that the two characters are. Well, first the old lady and then the younger one that came together to use the part of the party to have their garden. And could you explain? And that's what we doesn't need a lot of speech to understand the thematic of the movie. But I am interested to see how you develop that of the script.
Yeah, the seed. Yeah. So, you know, it's wild to me because a huge part of Palestinian culture and indigenous cultures all over the world is obviously our connection with the land, and it's not even questioned, really. It's just a part of that knowledge that gets passed down, like seeds that, like, you know, when our grandparents like had to leave, you know, the first thing they grab is the seeds, because that's part of something that's been passed down for generations of caring for the land. And like the region where my family was from was known for growing like watermelons, and these are like certain species of plants that were heirloom and passed down from generations. And so that connection to the land, I think, resonates through all indigenous cultures that maintain that knowledge. And it's so wild living in a city like Toronto, where people are so alienated from the land. People are so alienated. Like there's like bylaws that prevent you from planting in the grass between the sidewalk and the road. Like it's illegal. You're not allowed to plant anything there, which is wild to me how much like colonialism and capitalism has just destroyed that connection for people and made it very difficult, like even to afford access to dirt, like to the ground, to the earth. It's a privilege in a city. It's a privilege to be able to have that space. And it's something that we're a part of, you know, we're supposed to be a part of. And it's a reciprocal relationship. So I think that these two women, like, especially Monique's character, Tanya, like, she is, even though she knows every year what's going to come from the building management, she still is going to plant her fucking garden. Like, she's going to plant her garden. It doesn't matter what bureaucracy, what bylaws are in place. She knows what her responsibility is, what her connection means, and she doesn't give up on that. And it's like a form of resistance, even though she knows it's not going to work out. And I think her gifting that, even though it's really painful for Nawal, the younger Palestinian character, to realize like, oh, we're never going to come to the fruition of our efforts here of this connection to the land. She passes on that teaching that like this is an act of resistance. And if you stop trying, they've won. So yeah, I think that the absurdity of living in a city and like that you can't plant on the lawn of your building is just like, how do we think that's normal? You know, like, how has that become normal in colonialism and capitalism, and what kind of like brainwashing has had to happen, and violent disconnection for people to believe that that's normal.
Yeah, and something I really enjoy in the film also is I think we talked about it when we met, but it's that dark subject, of course, that is like the background of the stories, but it's a short film that is that there's so much like light and such a positive vibe about it between the two characters, and like even in the colors of the film, it's not a dark movie. It's full of light. There's some humor in it too. So how is it? Well, first of all, what was the decision to tell that story that way? And was it hard also? Because back then you said you were doing a cry break session, but it's a film that, like, you don't necessarily want to cry. You know, you have some laughs, you smiled during it. So how was it to tell that story that way?
I think a lot of what we talked about, Monique, was this also connection between our cultures of humor being a key part of how we practice resistance. And even in the sight of like so many hardships, so much violence, I think Indigenous communities are so great at keeping that sense of humor. And it's kind of like a middle finger to the man, like, you know, to anyone who's trying to crush that spirit. Like, laughter is at the center of that, and like maintaining your humanity through being able to connect with each other that way is present in like Palestinian culture and Indigenous culture on Turtle Island, and I think everywhere. So that's something that I just feel like is the way we process, like I process things, the way my family processes things. Monique, I don't know if you want to speak more to our use of humor in the script as well, like, and especially for Tanya's character, because I think she provides a lot of humor to the film.
Well, most of it was already in the way that Fateema wrote the character before I came into the project. So I just sort of leaned in to that. She's seen a lot. She's not going to put up with any bullshit, but she's also not going to expend a lot of energy on it, you know? So there's kind of a dryness to Tanya. But I also think because we allowed ourselves those heavy moments behind the scenes and off camera and in the prep, we really cried lots. And I also remember that we did a feast, we did a dinner where Fateema made Palestinian foods. And the fact that we acknowledged the grief, we acknowledged the fear, we acknowledged the rage and the outrage of the moment that we were in and the history that got us all there. That when the camera was rolling, it really allowed us to, oh, there goes, that's my cat. Chatty. It allowed us to lift off those things because we weren't trying to say, oh, well, you leave it outside the door kind of way of working. We brought it in. And the young actor who was in the film, Reina, that was her first film. She's Lebanese, right? So there was a lot of that was unsaid among us. We just know, okay, whoa, did you see what happened today? And then, all right, we have this to do. And there was a real feeling of, I think, gratitude that we had our art. We were privileged that we had something to do with all of that. Something to do with the outrage and the overwhelm.
100%. And yeah, like having those moments of lightness and comedy, like it's so interesting because, you know, this film I've been developing it for many years, but then the context in which I shot it was through a director's lab at the Canadian Film Center. And why Monique was like, so I needed her so badly was because no one understood. Like all of our mentors were like white, Caucasian, European, Canadian. And they were like, how is this funny? Like what? Like, I think you need to take that part out. Like, it doesn't make sense. And I'm like, this is you dehumanizing us. Like, this is your unconscious bias trying to dehumanize our people, because you can't imagine that we could have suffered this much and that we could still be able to laugh. You only want to see us as a victim. And, you know, though they have good intentions, they're trying to help, they're trying to, you know, do their work as a professional, there's all of that baggage that comes with looking at a Palestinian story, looking at an Indigenous story. When you aren't from our communities, you don't have that lived experience or that history of your family. And I think like I was fought so hard to be like, you're going to understand when it's on screen. Like, you don't have to understand this now, but you're wrong. Like, you're wrong. And so, yeah, when Reina, our actor who played Noel, and Monique became part of the process and we were workshopping, it was like, oh my God, what a relief. Like, you both understand this humor and you understand the weight of everything we're carrying. And both of those can coexist, like Monique is saying. Like, both of those go together and feed each other. And it's a circle. It's not this hierarchy of film the way, you know, the colonial system wants us to do it. Within that, we had to make our own circle of safety as collaborators that allowed us to do this project. And, you know, we still had to work within certain boundaries of like the program and the production and our other collaborators. But I think having our circle of safety and understanding within that is what allowed those moments to really come to life.
I think we had an understanding too that what we didn't want is what usually happens, in that there's a term called trauma porn.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of, you know, Native stories, Palestinian stories of struggle get kind of funneled into that trauma porn that just, it's deadening. It kills me. I can't do it anymore. And so we had the awareness of, we're not going there. We're not interested. That we have to tell our stories in a way that it's the humanizing. It's the humanizing. We have to maintain our dignity and our humanness in all of the dynamics, all the emotional dynamics, all of the absurdities.
That's such a great word. Yeah, the dignity. That's it. It's maintaining our dignity.
I remember in the 90s, well, in 1991 was the first Montreal First Peoples Festival.
Oh, wow.
And in those years, there was a lot of films about exactly trauma, difficulties, residential schools, erasure of the cultures. And maybe Monica knows what I will speak about because she left. There was one of the films we have screened in the very, very first festival, 1991, 1992, were from a group of women in New York City called Spider Woman Theatre.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and I think you have a close connection to those funny ladies. They were laughing. It was really humoristic, really unhinged humor. And it was so surprising for many people to say, wow, there is some laugh in all that, those historical difficulties and challenges. And so I think, Monica, you are born in Indigenous humor.
That's what I come from. That is my matrilineal line, my matriarchs, and my artistic lineage. Spider Woman Theater is my mom and my two aunts, the eldest of whom has passed over. And my mom's going to be 100 years old in July.
That's incredible. So, mashallah.
So what they taught me and their aesthetics and sensibility is what I was steeped in. And yeah, I mean, my Aunt Muriel, who's the director of Spider Woman, insists that, you know, there's got to be hope. You can't leave people without hope. And not only does it have to be funny for funny's sake, I mean, the fact of our lives, the facts of what we have to live with and what we have to navigate just on a daily basis is funny as hell. It's absurd. And it's so absurd. So I don't know why we're so funny. I don't know. Those ladies, they still are. They still are. And oh, come on, Mr. Mew. Sorry about that.
Speaking of
That's
fun,
cute.
Well, it's a humor. Yeah. Yes, and
He has
I think
lots to say.
humor is a survival kit for the indigenous, North American indigenous, obviously. And I would like to ask Vincent, how come you discovered that film, and how with your colleague at Regard you decided to program it?
Yeah, well, so the first time I saw the movie was the screening at Imaginative, and you know, I loved it for the reason I mentioned earlier, that like that way of telling the story with you know, that sad story, but with so much light. So that's something that personally, on a personal point of view, it's something I love about films, especially short film. I think it's a good way. So yeah, it's was my third year programming at the Regard, Indigenous perspective, and I really thought it was the time also to talk about everything we said about the connection between like Indigenous here, Indigenous stories in Canada, and Palestinian stories. So I feel like it was just the right time. Well, it's not really the right time. I think we should have done it like earlier in the past 2 years. I programmed there, so it wasn't the right time. It was late, but it was better late than never, I think. So yeah, so that's why. And I remember when you I think it's when you won a prize there at Imaginative, and you I don't know when I remember your speech. It was so touching, and so like I was like, oh, I get to meet her. Didn't happen at that time, but I was like, it's gonna happen. We'll find a way. So that's why I reached out when we were programming Regard Autochtone. But yes, so I think it. But I'll also follow with the question about that. So because the film had a good run, a good life. So I think it's time for you guys to brag a little about like the how the film lived and everything. So how was that Imaginative experience and all the other festival? Because I think is it your first film as a director also?
It's my third short film.
All right. So yeah. So how was that experience and like the kind of success behind it? I think you had a chance to attend most of the festival in person also. So
it's been like such a privilege. Honestly, it's really wild because like as Monique was saying, like this project was developed long before October 7th. You know, we became collaborators before that time, and then we filmed the project like weeks after that date, like in October, 2023. I think it's like 2 weeks or 3 weeks after. So it's really wild that this story is like coming to audiences in this time when like there's more awareness and awakening about the genocide, the connection between the genocide in Palestine, the genocide here on Turtle Island. Like it's kind of like it feels spiritual to me, and like, you know, storytelling feels spiritual to me. It's not all about the creator. I think like it's beyond you at a certain point, and I think especially with the story, I feel that way. Like just the timing of when it's got to travel to festivals and be seen by people and touch people is I couldn't have ever anticipated that, I think, as an artist. And yeah, it's been amazing to see like the reception from Indigenous communities all over the world. Like we had it, this film has traveled. I didn't get to go, but the film went to some Sami festivals in Norway and in Finland, which is amazing. And like the programmers there were like, oh, can we also bring it to this like art exhibition that's happening? And I think the people who find the film, bring it to these like very niche screenings, which as a filmmaker, I love to hear that, oh, this film went and screened like with this specific community in this place that isn't like a big central, like big shiny festival, but to people who, are actually going to relate with our story. Not that people at a big festival wouldn't relate, but I just think that's so special that it has had a lot of community screenings. And I think just like it's been a process too, like learning how to talk about the film, especially like this whole process of grief within the past 3 years. It's been very difficult at times to talk about the film. Like, I'm like, that's all I have to say. I can't say more. Like words are failing, words are failing all of us. So at certain times it's been difficult to, talk about the film or feel like my words are enough. But like Monique and you were saying, like, I think that the film is centered in hope and in this lightness that I hope like, inspires people and inspires them towards action. And it's always like so emotional watching the film, and it changes all the time, I think. But Monique, how's it been for you watching yourself on screen? It's so different, like as an actor and a performer.
I think the only time we saw it together was
Imaginative?
As Imaginative. Yeah, that's so far the only time. As an actor, I find it very difficult to watch myself. I don't like watching myself on screen. As a theater actor, stage actor, you never have to see it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there's always but I think that the vehicle is what has left me with that it's important. It's a short film, but it's important because it can take the place of so many lectures and teach-ins, and not take the place of, but it does different work and hits in a different way when there's a dramatic film. And, I mean, here in Toronto, and I can only really speak for Toronto because it's where I live and where I've been active, that was work that predated October 2023 of trying to build relationship and solidarity between the Native community and Palestinian community. And it was only after October 7th that it started to really sort of solidify, where those relationships, it was that much more critical. Say, okay, no messing around now. We really gotta get it together. And in the last couple of weeks, I was at 2 gatherings that were so hopeful. That Mox from the Gitsan and from the Wet'suwet'en was here, and I was at an event. Yves Saint was there, another leader from and the way it was organized by different coalition groups, and a friend of mine who's a Palestinian activist here had her mother and her aunt cater with Palestinian foods. Wow. And it was a real relationship. And that has been worked on very, very hard. And there was a teach-in a few days later. And the thing that hit me hardest was there was one slide that came up that showed all the Marvel comic book master villains between what's going on in Gitsan territories and what's going on in Palestine and Jordan and Lebanon and Syria. And they were all the same players. And And I think that's what we really need to realize. That the gallery of villains are the same dudes. And the rest is like chump change. Find those ways that where we can stand together, and where those intersections really make a difference and can make a difference, as you just said, Fateema, to spur to action. How does our work as filmmakers, as writers, as actors, how does that touch people? How does it move people? How does it hit so that you act? How does it hit so that we move something over? And most of the time it feels monumental, and a lot of the times it feels, oh, what's that word? When you think too much, is it hubris to think of that artists can change anything? Especially the way that art is relegated to a luxury in North America, this entertainment.
Yeah. It's interesting too, like through these screenings, like you're saying, Monique, like the amount of people who never made that connection was kind of surprising to me. I was like, why do you, I'm like, obviously want to be supportive. I'm like, yeah, affirm them. Like, yeah, like, of course, like, I'm glad you're making this connection now. But, so I think, yeah, art does, like, though it seems, like I said, like, sometimes it feels like words aren't enough. Art isn't enough. Like, nothing can be enough. However, it can touch people in a way that other things don't make that connection for, like, until they see a story of two human beings, that on screen that they can relate to and resonate with, and they're going through that emotional arc. It's different than reading a paper or seeing a news headline, And
it's our responsibility. That's also, I think, what I'm feeling more than ever as an artist, that we're at such a critical point that we can't do. How can you possibly how can you create anything that's just for entertainment? There has to be we are responsible. It is our obligation. It is critical that the work contribute to a shift in attitude, to a shift in the paradigm of how people think about power, how people think about relationality. It's there's too many critical things going on. People are dying in the streets in Toronto. Closure of safe injection sites. How's that okay? And yet Canada has this image on the world stage.
It's wild, hey?
And it's so false. It's so false.
Yeah.
Thinking about the ways in which I have a friend who was very involved in Chile and Argentina in the 70s and 80s, and think, well, we're back there again. The clandestine prisons and tortures are happening all over again. So I feel myself that everything that I do, as much as I possibly can, has to be another drop in the bucket, has to be another contribution, has to be part of my resistance to that monster. Sometimes that's all I've got. It's all I've got to resist with.
Yeah.
Yes. And in Montreal, too, we see people dying in the streets. That's terrible. And we see ourselves here. I said we are cultural warriors because we have to fight to have a way to speak loud and reach the public. But slowly we are gaining audience and respectability. We are more and more recognized as Indigenous, not only as artists, not only as Indigenous, but as Indigenous artists. I like the Vincent at the Regard when he spoke about that. He said, Indigenous artist is not an artist with something that handicap him. On the contrary, that's an artist plus. He has with roots and connection that has bring more meaning to the works of the filmmakers in that perspective. I have another question. I know, well, you know in Toronto probably, but in the Quebec region, in Montreal, there is a lot of fractionalism between Indigenous people telling, you are not, you have not the right blood quantum, or you are not Indigenous enough. And well, sometime when you have to denounce imposture, it's a good thing, but sometimes it hurts the links we have between our own communities. And I was wondering, because all this debate had an impact on the institution that are financing the arts. I know it's very difficult, and I want to know if you have met that kind of difficulty, Fateema. It's very difficult for somebody who is not a stamp, official Canadian Indigenous to get funding to raise Indigenous issues in his or her film. And, I wanted to know if you have to, if you had to add that kind of walls in front of you at some point. Now you finally got over that rigidity.
Yeah, it's so interesting because, like, I'm a mixed race person. That's a complicated identity, period. I think, like, the context in which we all live, you know, on a land that has gone through so many generations of colonialism and movement and migration, like, you know, we all come from somewhere and have a complicated history to how we've gotten here. And so, like, when I'm telling stories, I want to always be rooted in my feelings that I won't leave me alone. And also the lineage of people that I come from and the stories that I come from and the longing that I experience. So, you know, I don't really tell stories like about Palestine. Like, I can't really tell stories about Palestine because I have never been able to go. Like, my family has never been able to return. And so my stories are about longing for that connection, and longing for a home, and longing for solidarity and friendship and family when you're kind of like fractured. And so I think, like, the key for this story was having a collaborator like Monique who was going to be involved in, you know, reviewing the project, story editing the project. She's so accomplished in all of her work, like with thinking about story and thinking about the body, thinking about the ways we can have, like she said, the body telling the story and breaking away from like conventional narratives, which is what I already feel the impulse to break away from this like structure that the colonial system tells me a story has to be told this way, because, you know, Palestinian folk tales don't take that structure. Like traditional stories, you know, here don't take that structure. And so like I really centered the story in wanting it to be, you know, from this viewpoint of Nawal, this character who has this longing but has nowhere to go, and to bring on a partner like Monique who could support me and bring her own lived experience and knowledge and wisdom to the project, as well as like embodying that character and really writing the story around her and changing the character around her. So I think like it was interesting because it was through a lab. It wasn't like I could just bring whatever story I wanted, but the issue that I came up against was really wild, was like the facilitators being like, oh, well, you have story editors already. Like, and I'm like, oh yeah, they're these white people who don't understand my story. Like if I'm going to do this here, like I want an Indigenous mentor who's going to, you know, collaborate with me on this project. If you can't do that, I'll save the story and I'll apply for grants and I'll do this on my own. But they kind of had this narrative of like, well, if you have an Indigenous story editor and whatever, like, will it even be your story anymore? And I'm like, so having like a white story editor, you know, doesn't impact that, but having an Indigenous story editor would. Like, that's crazy. You said that out loud, actually. So I had to fight hard to convince them to, like, you know, have this as a you know, compensated collaboration that's equal to you know, other collaborators. You know, a lot of stuff was like through this bureaucracy process, and it just really showed me that, yeah, like the when you're trying to tell these kind of stories, people have an idea of like the right way it should be told, or you know, what that entails, or like who a director is. And it's like, for me, the story is all of ours. Like the story belongs to me, it belongs to Monique, it belongs to Reina, like it belongs to all of us. And it's my process as a director is always to like shift the script around my actors, really be responsive to what they're bringing to it, because they have a whole body of experience and knowledge and lived experience that is richer than anything I could ever write. So I think just the way I center this work is like, I'm bringing my own point of view from my own lived experience, and I want to have a collaborator who we create safety and collaboration that they can also bring that as well and feel comfortable to be a big part of the story, not just, oh, you're going to read the lines on the page. And so, yeah, it was interesting the way an institution viewed that, and how much I had to fight for that, which was like a big learning curve for me. But yeah, I think that's the context in which this project happened. So I didn't apply for other funds, so I'm not sure how it would have gone if we had pursued other funding. But
well, it's really interesting the way it's normalized that, like, white North American, whether it's Canadian, whether it's an American, is neutral. It's neutral, objectively neutral in so many things, when it's so not. That the structure, these structures that they impose come from a specific land, from a specific history, from a specific culture, using specific languages, and it's not the same. You know, and in my own work, this is what I have found probably the most exciting, is how does it change our storytelling? How does it change what we end up with? How does it change our own process through the creation of a story when the structure we hang it on is an Indigenous structure? And that can be anything. Like, we've yet to do it, but Fateema and I have had conversations about, well, Tetris, the Palestinian embroidery, is a story narrative. What would happen? What would happen if that structure was the structure for your script, for your screenplay? That's what I've done in my theater work, is to use the material culture from my nations as a literary narrative.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really, really informative. But the other thing that it does for the creator of it is that it really requires us to learn things that we never knew about our place of origin, about our family of origin, about our culture. I mean, no matter what it is. And when I've worked with, as a dramaturg with other Indigenous creators, different things that people have used have been pottery, wampum belts, the way a lightning storm, a thunder and lightning storm builds, those what is she? Wurlitzer. She used their pictographic symbols, and I use that as well from the Kuna. I'm trying to think if somebody else knows somebody. How a sweat lodge is constructed, the process and the structure. So there are different things that can be borrowed from how our peoples tell a story.
Mm-hmm.
Because identity is embedded in that.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I also used was the mound complexes that are, built on the land through earthworks, because that's a literary structure. But you have to learn how to read those things. So it requires a lot more from the creator of the piece.
And it's so interesting, like how, let's say, an institution, like we're part of an institution that didn't necessarily value alternative forms of storytelling. And we really had to push towards like, you can only provide me with so much. I know you know about screenwriting and you're all very professional in your field, but like Monique said, it's a certain point of view towards storytelling that this story needs something different. And this isn't the neutral gaze of like all stories need to be this way. Our story needs something different. And luckily we were able to like, to have that support in the end. But it took a lot of like work to get that in an institutional setting, which was a new thing for me because I've only worked like independently as a filmmaker in the past. So that was a learning.
And a neutral gaze isn't neutral.
Yeah, there's no such thing. Yeah, there's no such thing.
And why would you want that? I mean, part of the thing about film that makes it so fascinating is that the eye that's looking through the lens tells you the point of view, and the eye looking through the lens is really important. It's not neutral.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The camera isn't neutral.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I remember when we had to sign a petition because Telefilm had cut Zacharias Kunuk's budget on his very first feature film. And because he was doing a feature film, he was not supposed to. He was supposed to do a short film. And finally, the very, very with. They were not happy when they finally had to finance the film. And when the films got out, 26 years from now, in 2000, he was first selected at Cannes Film Festival and won the Caméra d'Or.
Oh my God.
The prize for the first feature film. And after that, at Anarjoat, you have the poster in every office of Telefilm Canada. But for me, it's exactly the example how they are supposed. And I thought it was over, but recently I traveled to Italy with Amanda Strong, who has this wonderful animation film that we have shown in Matera in Italy. And she told me at the finally in the process of the film, she got the support of NFB. But she told me it was difficult because they wanted to change the script. They were not understanding everything. And instead of give their confidence to the director, they were trying to twist the scenario in the way they see it. And this is a point of view. This is not new scientific knowledge, script writing and storytelling. And when you spoke, Monique, I was just have all those memories of this indigenous artists trying to defend the way we have to tell story that is not always in perfect concordance with the way the institution and the television wanted. Probably the short films are give more liberty because when you are at the feature film level where you are going, I suppose that's it's more and more difficult. Rigidity of the institutions.
Definitely.
Alexandre, you are so silent.
That was really interesting. I have one question for Monique and Fateema. Like, I heard that you did not compromise your creation. Like, when you have to put your feet down to make sure that your script stays the way you want to say it. Like, do you? I kind of feel like I'm more. I can compromise when I'm collaborating with white people, like in the stories.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting because I'm biracial too. When white people talk to me, sometimes they're like, "Oh, like you're one of us. Like you get what I'm saying. No, man, like you get what I'm saying." And I'm like, you are like triggering me so much, and what you're saying is totally evil. But what? Like just it's so interesting the way that being who I am, those conversations happen. Like they're trying to find this allegiance of like where they can find resonance with me of like, oh, well, that it wouldn't be your story anymore if you had an Indigenous story editor. Like, that you're one of us, that. And I'm like, I am not part of this club and I will refuse. Like what you're saying is not normal. So I think like I wanted to, but then it also puts your guard up, right? And I feel like I had my guard up a lot with some of those collaborators because of these little microaggressions that would happen over time. And it was a challenge for me. I had to remind myself like, okay, like, they mean well, like I can take and leave what I want. Like, I think that's a lot of like strength that you have, Alexandre, that's that you that's a lot of confidence that you have to have as a creator to collaborate with people with an opposing view from you. I think I just felt like my identity is so fractured. Sometimes I feel like people can really push, and then I lose my voice, or like and then I wake up the next day and I'm like, oh, why did I agree to that? Or, so I think I swung the other way where I was super on guard and like, just like not maybe taking any feedback, but then I was trying to like, okay, what is the good feedback I can take that is really helpful and that they're trying to like really tighten the script and tighten the story? And where are my lines where I'm like, how can I discern what is about story and what is about a cultural element they don't understand? Because they put it all in one package. Like they put in the story notes and the cultural like misunderstandings all under the same context, but that's what it's difficult to untangle. And I think it just comes as like you like knowing who you are and having that confidence and being able to discern those two things. I think I was still like, developing a lot as a filmmaker, and it was through that struggle that I kind of learned how to discern, okay, I can listen to these notes, but then these notes are actually a misunderstanding. And tried to explain, but actually I can't explain it to them, So I think that shows you have like, you know who you are. You have so much confidence in your vision when you can do those collaborations and it not like trigger, well, not that it wouldn't trigger someone, but like to stay strong. And I think I learned it through doing that process because it was my first time kind of having that kind of collaboration. And then having Monique there, like once Monique was on board, I had a sounding board where I could be like, hey, like, how do you feel about this note? Like, this is the kind of notes they're giving on this element. And then we could untangle it a bit together and talk more about like, and Monique really helped me reinforce my point of view and my confidence as a storyteller, because she like really believed in the story. And I needed that mentor because I didn't have somebody like that. Like as a filmmaker, because I kind of came into this work like very DIY. I didn't have another generation to look up to. And the people that were being offered to me, I was like, I don't feel like we understand each other. So they did have great feedback at some points, but then having another voice like Monique just like helped me discern what was helpful and what I could leave at the door, Yeah. I don't know, Monique, if you want to comment on that too.
I didn't have any interaction with the
true.
Institution really, at all. Yeah. So I can't speak to that part. But in terms of experience, I mean, win some, lose some. And again, I'm talking about from an actor point of view. Actors have much less power. We have pretty close to nothing to say about, whether it's words that are put in our mouths or a way something a character is being asked to do. Sometimes you're completely ignored. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you can get people to listen to you, Mm-hmm. I've had both experiences. Mm-hmm. And has it changed? Has it shifted? And I think the world is very different. The worlds are very different between film and theater, in terms of how you get people to listen to you, if people will listen to you. So it really depends. It depends. It's varied.
Yeah, that's the thing with me. Like I was collaborating with réalisateur. Comment on dit déjà réalisateur? Hein? Je cherche le mot là. Director. So I was doing the script, and he was having those notes. For me, he thought like he means well. So he wants the short to be successful. So he knows their audience. So how to resonate. So I have to listen to them.
Yeah. So
that's the balance I have to find. Like, is it he should be a professional, so he knows his shit, he knows his stuff, and sorry,
that's something that a lot of you hear a lot, whether you're talking about playwrights and dramaturgs and directors or a screenplay and a director, is that asking you who the audience is also not a neutral question, because if they're not from an indigenous group of peoples, their assumption again is that neutral white audience. So what you have to ask yourself is, am I writing this for a white audience? Am I writing this? Am I creating this for an audience who doesn't understand anything about the experience? Or am I writing this for myself and my community and my family and people who know what I know? Because you're going to get two different things depending on that. And maybe he knows best. Maybe that person knows best as a professional for a white Canadian or Quebecois audience, but does he know best for if you're speaking to your community? And I'm not saying that there has to be one kind of film for a Native community audience and another kind of film, but it makes a difference, and that really depends on what is your story that you need to tell. And why do we tell stories in our own families and community? Why do we tell story?
But we have also many examples. Atanarjuat is the canonic, the big one. This a story that is told in Inuktitut for the Inuit nation, and it has been a worldwide success. And I have seen many films that were exactly fit into the rules of the narrative that we are supposed to follow, and they don't have no impact on the audience they were supposed to be calibrated to reach. So being original is often a better way to success than to follow the rules.
Yeah. And yeah, like, and having a good filter, like, because you always want to be developing your craft, and that's a big, like, we don't want it to be like, you know, so separated from the larger industry or whatever that means. Like, we're still, you know, making films here. Like, I want to have my craft keep improving, but then at the same time, not putting anybody on a pedestal of like, oh, you know best, and you're God, like, you know everything there is to know about stories. But I think having multiple voices that you're listening to that can slowly help build you as an artist and build your projects, I think that has kept me grounded, and always finding, like, yeah, different types of knowledge that you're seeking out rather than just one source, I think.
So, you know, Vincent is on the committee of selection for the Montreal First Peoples Festival. So I think he will defend the film to be part of the August festival.
That's
and
so
there is a very good chance that we will have the pleasure to maybe have you in Montreal to present the film.
Oh.
I cannot be sure yet because the process is going on.
Long process. Yeah.
Yes, but you are certainly, as actor and as filmmakers, on a good trail to make it to the programmation.
This was a part of the interview process. Just
okay, I think now, Monique, you have to go to feed your cat.
Oh, I did that. No way, shut up.
Yes, we don't hear it more. So the next week, next Wednesday, we will have another podcast on the Adadigan Street. It's interesting because Adadigan is a Mohawk word, and it's new because the street had for a long time another name. It was from an English colonial military that has been a very genocidal actor in North America. And he was honored by a name of a street in Montreal. And during years and years, we wanted it to be changed. And now it is done. It is Adadigan Street. And awesome. we are happy to, and we're also happy that we gave the same name at our podcast. So, so this is a sign of the recuperation of the land that we are slowly doing. Many activists and many artists that are really the vanguard of our fight. So it was really an honor to have you on Adadigan Street. And thank you very much to have accepted our invitation.
Thank you. Shukran. Thank you so much for your time and your thoughtful questions and for caring about our film and bringing us here. And Monique, it's so nice to talk together about the film. It's like such a treat to all be here on the call.
Yeah, we haven't done much of that.
I know.
Coming up.
Yeah. Thanks, Monique, Fateema. Monique, I think I feel truly honored to be in your presence since I've been a Smoke Signals fan. I grew up with that movie, so
Yeah.
thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Okay.
So see you next week, André.
Yes.
Matashik Skina. Bye-bye.